The remote Zorro ranch where Jeffrey Epstein's sex slave has claimed she was flown as a teenager to meet Prince Andrew alone has finally been sold. None of the late pedophile's victims will benefit from the multimillionaire dollar sale. However, shockingly, his partner in crime, Ghislaine Maxwell, could get some of the money. Last night, one of Epstein's victims branded the possibility beyond deplorable. The now 35-year-old, who was abused by the financier when she was a schoolgirl, told Daily Express US, "Is there no depth Ghislaine will stoop to?" Not happy with inflicting abuse on young girls with Jeffrey, she now wants to cash in on his offending. It is beyond deplorable how she has the nerve to try and profit while victims can no longer get compensation. Almost £95 million of Epstein's fortune was distributed to more than 135 people from his compensation fund set up after his suicide, but payments ended in August 2021. Maxwell is suing her former lover's estate, where the proceeds will go, claiming the estate failed to provide her with funds despite the deceased child sex offenders promising to bankroll her for life. The British socialite, sentenced to 20 years in prison in June last year for grooming and sexually abusing underage girls with Epstein, is continuing her claim from the Florida prison where she is being held. 2 days before his jail cell suicide in August 2019, the Wall Street financier put more than £554 million in assets into a trust fund, shrouding it in secrecy while making it more difficult for his victims to collect damages. None of the inheritors have been made public. However, Karina Shuliak, his girlfriend and the last person he spoke to on the phone before killing himself, is reported to be one of the primary beneficiaries. The Belarusian also visited him at the Grim Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan, where he was being held 11 days before his death. The convicted sex offender's New Mexico bolt hole, where some of his most monstrous allegations of sexual abuse occurred, had been on the market for £21.6 million since July 2021. No one dared touch the property even when the twisted sex offender's estate dropped the price a year later by almost £5 million. But Daily Express US can reveal that on Thursday, the 7,588-acre Zorro Ranch sold for an undisclosed fee to San Rafael Ranch, LLC, a company formed just weeks ago. Papers show a special warranty deed was issued by the Santa Fe County Clerk's Office the day before and signed off on by Darren Indike, the executor of Epstein's estate. The sale included the secluded lodge where Andrew is claimed to have stayed whenever he visited. The Duke of York's sexual abuse accuser Virginia Giuffre and former Zorro Ranch staff all say they witnessed the royal at the remote hilltop mansion. He allegedly visited the property near Stanley, New Mexico on several occasions. It was there that Giuffre claimed she was flown to as a teenager to meet with the Duke alone. Andrew and his legal team have vehemently denied her claims, saying he can never recall even meeting her despite a picture appearing to show them together. Ms. Giuffre claimed in her unpublished memoir, entered into evidence in her since-settled 2015 defamation case against Maxwell, that she spent 2 days alone with the prince there in around 2001 when she was 17 or 18. The alleged sex slave claims billionaire Epstein flew her to his ranch by herself, not knowing who she was going to meet for a sexual encounter. Once there, she claims Andrew was waiting for her with the same old cheesy grin she alleges to have seen while meeting him before in London and New York. Giuffre alleged she was alone with the Duke for 2 days, during which he enjoyed numerous massages. She wrote of the alleged tryst around 2001, "Ghislaine only told me that I was to meet someone there, not sure of whom that was. It wasn't my place to ask. As far as I knew, it could be anyone, and I had no choice but to be compliant to their needs." Giuffre, who was around 17 or 18 years old at the time, said she landed around the middle of the day before a ranch hand collected her from the airport to take her to the mansion. She claims she only discovered Prince Andrew was waiting for her when she arrived at Zorro. "My job was to entertain him endlessly, whether that meant having to bestow him my body during an erotic massage or simply take him horseback riding," she wrote in her memoir. Unlike the prince's visits to Epstein's properties in New York, Palm Beach, Florida and his private Caribbean island, the American financier and Maxwell were absent. According to a former Zorro housekeeper, Andrew was at the Predator's ranch with a beautiful young neurosurgeon on another occasion. Deidre Stratton claimed the prince was kept company by the woman for 3 days when he stayed at the ranch alone. She said Andrew came to stay at the ranch and was put up in a self-contained 3-bedroom guest lodge on the estate. Epstein was not there, but he arranged for Andrew to be accompanied by the woman, later revealed to be Melanie Walker. Stratton said, "At the time Jeffrey had this, she supposedly was a neurosurgeon, quite young, beautiful, young and brilliant, and she stayed in the home with him. At one point, we had all these different teas, and you could pick the teas that you wanted, and she asked me to find one that would make Andrew more horny." When Express tracked down Dr. Walker, she refused to comment on Stratton's remarks when asked. "I'm guessing she understood her job was to entertain him because I guess, the fear, I don't know, the fear would be that Andrew would say, 'No, I didn't really find her that attractive.' He would tell Jeffrey that, and then she would be on the ropes." Stratton told how, while there, she asked Andrew what he would like for breakfast, and the royal said he wanted to try and cook some bacon for himself. "I offered to come up and fix his breakfast, and he said, 'No, I want to try.' When I got up there later to tidy up, you could smell burnt bacon, and he was like, 'I didn't do so well.' He had a croissant and green tea or something. I remember him trying to cook his own breakfast. Isn't that cute? He couldn't even fry bacon." Epstein reportedly had plans to make the ranch a baby-making factory where he would inseminate victims. Computer scientist and writer Jaron Lanier claimed he had previously spoken to a fellow scientist who revealed the convicted pedophile's goal of having at least 20 women at a time impregnated at the ranch. Epstein had hoped to use the property to seed the human race with his DNA. Over the years, several women accused the late disgraced New York-based investor and convicted sex offender Ghislaine Maxwell of sexually abusing them there. Though he was never charged with a crime in New Mexico, the ranch has been painted as integral to his sex trafficking operation. The listing noted that Zorro comprises a 3-story, 4-bedroom main house, a nearby caretaker's residence, and multiple other structures. It also has another separately and privately located house and 4 other residences at Ranch Central. Meanwhile, the lodge and log cabin where Andrew is said to have stayed is in its own private location on the ranch. Zorro, which includes a firehouse, log cabin, guest house, pool, airstrip, antique railroad car and train tracks, is part private, part public land. But New Mexico state officials say Epstein was so secretive about the ranch that they have virtually no access and little knowledge about what happens on the public portions. Like an impenetrable fortress high on a hill, the property was bought to provide as much privacy as possible from the public and the police. The sprawling compound is tightly guarded with surveillance cameras, well-secured gates and fencing, and employees who, despite requests, remain tight-lipped and appear to avoid interaction with any potential visitors. When scouring New Mexico in the early 90s for a house to add to his portfolio, Epstein told hopeful estate agents privacy was paramount. He wanted really far away from people, Pat French, who Epstein approached in 1992, once said. Andrew's visits to Zorro around 2001 have been well documented and have been detailed in U.S. court evidence. Billionaire sex offender Epstein took his own life in August 2019 while awaiting trial for underage sex offenses. Following his death, Giffer pursued civil sexual abuse case against the prince in New York, which was settled out of court after the royal paid her a reported £5 million in March 2022 while accepting no liability.
Now